The music stopped the moment she walked into the prom hall. Heels still dusty, dress borrowed, and every bully suddenly smirking as if they smelled weakness. But before she could take one step inside, a bucket of glitter was dumped over her head, and a voice from the back shouted, "Welcome to your first and last prom, charity case." She didn't blink. She didn't flinch. She only lifted her chin. Slow, controlled. Like someone who'd been trained to keep her rage locked behind a steel door. And that's when the captain of the dance committee made the mistake of shoving her shoulder. A mistake nobody would understand until much, much later. Jade had promised herself she wouldn't cause trouble tonight. Prom was supposed to be her one quiet moment after a year that had torn her life apart piece by piece. Just 6 months earlier, she'd been undefeated in the ring, a rising youth boxing champion with a scholarship waiting, a coach who believed in her, and a future that felt almost possible. But one fight, one punch thrown a fraction too hard during a sparring match, changed everything. Her opponent landed wrong. The injury was serious. Headlines followed. Her scholarship vanished. Her school transferred her for safety reasons. And every gym in her city quietly closed their doors to her. Jade didn't come to this new school to shine. She didn't come to stand out. She came to disappear. To keep her hands in her pockets and her head down until graduation. To prove, to her mother, to herself, that she wasn't dangerous. That she wasn't the monster social media had painted her to be. But standing in the middle of the prom hall, glitter dripping into her eyes, laughter exploding around her, she felt that old ache in her knuckles. The ache that meant her body remembered what her mind was trying so hard to forget. She had spent every night for months reminding herself she wasn't a fighter anymore. She'd taken a job stacking shelves at night so she could avoid anything that felt like the ring. Every paycheck went straight to helping her mom cover rent after dad left. She barely slept. She barely breathed. Every day, she carried the fear that one wrong move, one burst of anger, would confirm everyone's worst assumption. That she was someone to fear. And yet, here they were. Taunting her. Cornering her. Pushing her. The worst part? She wasn't afraid of the bullies. She was afraid of how easy it would be to end the bullying. How natural it would feel to let her fists speak for her. How terrifyingly familiar the urge felt rising in her chest. She had come here to be normal. But they were about to make her fight her own darkness all over again. The laughter didn't stop after the glitter. It grew louder, sharper, almost rehearsed. Because it wasn't just random bullying. It was a show. And the ringleader was already stepping forward, heels clicking like a countdown to humiliation. Madison Grant. Senior class president. Prom queen favorite. Daughter of a city councilwoman. And someone who had decided, from Jade's first day at school, that the new girl with the mysterious past needed to be put in her place. Madison circled her slowly, like she owned the floor, the music, the night. "Well," she said, voice dripping with fake sweetness. "I heard the new girl used to fight for money. Guess your little charity case family was that desperate." A few students gasped. Others laughed. Jade froze, because the rumor was spreading faster than she could outrun it. Her boxing past. The injury. The scandal. Everything she begged this new school to forget. But Madison wasn't done. She tugged at Jade's borrowed dress, pretending to fix it. "Where'd you get this?" "Some donation box behind the grocery store." Then, with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, "You don't belong here. Prom is for us. Not, whatever you are." A teacher stood nearby, watching. Not stepping in. Not even pretending to care. Jade felt her throat tighten. At her old school, adults feared her. Here, they ignored her. That was somehow worse. And then came the real injustice. Madison snapped her fingers, and 2 boys brought out a cardboard cutout. A cheap, cruel version of a boxing ring, drenched in glitter and duct tape. In the center was a printed photo of Jade, her old championship picture, defaced with clown makeup and red scribbles across her eyes. The crowd roared. Madison raised a fake golden championship belt and announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, the undefeated champion of hurting people. Let's give her a round of applause before she breaks someone else's bones." Jade's knees almost buckled. This wasn't teasing. This wasn't a prank. This was a public trial. Her mistakes dragged into the light by someone who had never fought for anything in her life. Madison leaned close, whispering where only Jade could hear. Your secret? I know all of it. And if you don't walk out of here right now, I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what you did in that ring. Jade's heart dropped. The injury, the guilt, the fear she'd spent months burying, now weaponized against her. This wasn't a fight she could win with fists. It was a fight against a cruel, powerful queen who held the whole school in her palm. And Jade wasn't sure which terrified her more, losing, or finally fighting back. Madison expected Jade to run. Most bullied kids did, especially when the whole school turned into an audience hungry for humiliation. But Jade didn't move. She didn't cry. She didn't break. She simply stared at the cardboard boxing ring and felt something shift inside her. Not anger. Not rage. Something else. Something colder. Deeper. Older. And that's when the double doors of the gym burst open. A loud crash echoed, and the entire prom froze. A man stormed in, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a dark jacket with the embroidered crest of the State Youth Athletic Federation. Everyone recognized the emblem. It was the badge of one of the toughest, most elite sports programs in the region. But Jade recognized more than the emblem. She recognized the man. Coach Ramirez. Her old coach. The only adult who ever believed she was more than her mistake. He scanned the room, eyes blazing, and pointed directly at Jade. There you are, he said, breathless. I've been looking for you for weeks. Whispers erupted. Why would a state-level coach come to prom? For her? Ramirez continued, voice booming. Jade, congratulations. You've been reinstated. The investigation closed this morning. They reviewed the footage, the testimony, the medical reports, and they cleared you. You're eligible to compete again. Your scholarship is back. All of it. The room fell dead silent. Jade's mind went blank. She thought she misheard. Cleared? Her scholarship? Restored? Her career? Alive again? Madison blinked, confused. Wait. What? That can't be right. She hurt someone. She's dangerous. Ramirez turned his glare on Madison. Dangerous? The injury was ruled an accident caused by faulty gym padding, not Jade. But I'm sure you already knew that, considering you spread the rumor before the investigation even finished. Madison's face drained of color. And one more thing, Ramirez added, stepping toward Jade with something wrapped in cloth. The Federation asked me to deliver this in person. He unwrapped it. A brand new pair of custom gloves. Black leather. Gold trim. With Jade's initials stitched in sharp, elegant lettering. The crowd gasped. This wasn't just a gift. It was a symbol. A statement. A crown placed back on the head of the girl they tried to crush. Madison's glitter bucket. Her cardboard ring. Her entire performance. Instantly meaningless. Because the nobody she tried to humiliate was officially returning as one of the top young fighters in the state. And now, everyone knew it. The power in the room shifted. Hard. Not because Jade fought back, but because the truth did. And Madison, for the first time all night, felt very, very small. The gym was silent. The kind of silence that only follows shock. Coach Ramirez's announcement had shaken the room, but what happened next rewrote every assumption the students ever made about Jade. Ramirez handed her the gloves with a quiet nod. Show them who you really are, he said. Jade swallowed hard. She didn't want to perform. She hated the idea of proving herself like some spectacle. But the cardboard ring, the lies, the humiliation, it all demanded a truth that only she could deliver. She stepped into the center of the floor, slipping her hands into the gloves. They fit perfectly, like they remembered her. Like they had been waiting. Madison scoffed from the crowd. What is she going to do? Punch the air? Jade didn't respond. She simply inhaled, slow, steady, and dropped into a stance so clean, so precise, so effortlessly professional that even the students who had mocked her fell silent again. Then she moved. Not violently, not aggressively, but with a level of skill that looked almost unreal in a school gym. Her footwork glided like she was floating. Her shoulders rotated with surgical precision. Her punches sliced the air fast enough to produce a sharp, audible pop with every strike. She wasn't just boxing. She was dancing, a controlled storm wrapped in discipline and grace. Within seconds, gasps spread through the room. Some students stepped backward, instinctively clearing space as if a real ring had materialized around her. Others pulled out their phones, not to mock her, but because they suddenly realized they were watching something rare. A prodigy. A natural. A fighter whose control was more terrifying than her power. Even the teacher who ignored her earlier now stared, stunned, as Jade executed a perfect 6-beat combination, ending with a pivot so clean it felt like choreography from a movie. Coach Ramirez whispered to a nearby chaperone, "She's one of the best I've ever trained. People fear her because they don't understand how much control she actually has." Madison's painted smile finally cracked. She looked around desperately, but no one was laughing with her anymore. They were mesmerized by Jade, because the girl they tried to humiliate was extraordinary, disciplined, elite, a fighter not defined by violence, but by mastery. Jade lowered her gloves, breathing steady, eyes calm. For the first time since she arrived at this school, everyone saw her for who she truly was. The gym floor still buzzed from Jade's flawless display. Students whispered her name like it carried new meaning, their eyes wide, phones raised, unable to look away. Every step she had taken, every punch, every pivot, replayed in their minds. But one person wasn't ready to surrender the spotlight: Madison. Her face was tight, lips trembling, eyes darting at every recording, every whisper, every glance. She pushed through the crowd, heels stabbing the polished floor with sharp, uneven rhythms, as if she could shatter the very ground beneath her. Her usual aura of control now felt brittle, fragile. "This is ridiculous," Madison barked, voice quivering but loud enough to cut through the murmurs. "She's dangerous. You're all just impressed by some stupid punching. That's it." Jade met her gaze calmly, the calm of someone who had been cornered and humiliated countless times before. "You wanted everyone to see who I really am. They did." Calm only made Madison angrier. Her nostrils flared, and her hands trembled as she grabbed the edge of the cardboard boxing ring and shoved it aside. Glitter and duct tape scattered across the floor, the cheap stage collapsing under the weight of her rage, like the power she had wielded for years. "No," she snapped, voice sharp as shattered glass. "We're not done. You don't get to walk in here, take over my prom, and pretend you're some hero." Jade didn't move. Her voice remained steady. "I'm not pretending anything." "Oh, please." Madison spat, stepping closer, almost invading Jade's space. "You think you can get cleared and suddenly you're better than us? You think you can just take back your life? People don't change that fast." The crowd recoiled slightly at her tone, the sharpness and desperation radiating like heat. Jade didn't flinch. Instead, she stepped forward, slow, deliberate, measured, not in threat, but in truth. "I don't want to be better than anyone," she said softly, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife. "I just want to stop being punished for one mistake. A mistake I spent months paying for." Madison laughed, a hollow, desperate sound that bounced off the walls. "A mistake? You broke someone's spine." Coach Ramirez cut in sharply, stepping between them. "Enough. That claim is false, and you know it." The boy recovered weeks later, but you kept spreading the worst version of the story. Madison flinched, eyes darting, panic rising, the truth squeezing her chest tighter than any fist ever could. Jade looked at her, really looked, and saw it. The fear buried under the cruelty, the trembling beneath the scorn. The fear of losing power, losing attention, losing the narrative she had built so meticulously. "You made me your villain," Jade said quietly, voice firm yet calm. "Because without someone to step on, you don't know who you are." The words hit Madison harder than a punch ever could. Her hands trembled. Her shoulders shook. And suddenly, the confident, untouchable queen of the prom looked small, fragile. She lunged, not physically, but emotionally, exploding, "You don't belong here. This school, this night, this attention, it's mine." And that was it. The real reveal. The truth everyone had already suspected but never dared to say aloud. Madison wasn't fighting Jade. She was fighting the collapse of her own throne. Jade stepped closer, faces inches apart. Her voice was calm, unwavering, slicing through the tension. "I'm not here to take your place. I'm here to take mine." The gym seemed to hold its breath. Students froze, phones mid-recording, mouths half open. Glitter sparkled faintly on the floor, catching the light like tiny stars, and the chaos of the prom faded into a silent spotlight on the two girls. For the first time in her high school kingdom, Madison had no power left to swing back. She stood there, stunned, a queen dethroned, while Jade radiated quiet dominance, not through fear, but through undeniable control and unshakable self-respect. The gym felt different now, quieter, warmer somehow, as if the tension had finally lifted. Students slowly stepped back, realizing the spectacle they had been part of wasn't just entertainment. It was a lesson in humility, courage, and truth. Madison stood frozen, cheeks flushed, lips trembling. Her glitter-stained crown of authority had crumbled in a single night. For once, she couldn't manipulate the story, couldn't twist the truth to her advantage. The more she tried to speak, the smaller she felt in the shadow of Jade's calm, composed presence. Jade didn't gloat. She didn't celebrate. She simply turned to the crowd and lifted her head high, letting her silence speak louder than words. Every student who had laughed, every one who had whispered, now looked at her differently. Respect, admiration, even or flickered in their eyes. Coach Ramirez stepped forward, clapping slowly. Sometimes, the strongest person in the room isn't the one who shouts the loudest. It's the one who keeps control, even when the world tries to break them. Jade's gaze softened, and she finally addressed Madison directly. "You wanted to humiliate me because it made you feel powerful. But power doesn't come from fear. It comes from discipline, integrity, and knowing who you really are." Madison swallowed, realizing Jade was right. For the first time, the facade cracked completely. The girl who ruled through manipulation and cruelty understood that her throne was empty without respect and truth. Then the real shock came. Coach Ramirez handed Jade a school-wide announcement printed on official letterhead. She had been invited to a state championship tournament, and the federation was covering her entry and travel. Not just reinstated. Rewarded. Gasps filled the room again. Jade's path was no longer blocked by lies, rumors, or fear. She had been tested, humiliated, and cornered, yet she emerged stronger than anyone could have predicted. As the students slowly applauded, Jade whispered to herself, "They tried to bury me, but they didn't know I was a seed." And in that moment, the moral was clear. Cruelty and false power are temporary. True strength, the kind that can't be faked, always rises. Madison looked on silently, the glitter and duct tape still clinging to her prom dress, finally understanding that some victories aren't about winning others over. They're about discovering who you really are. Students whispering, phones still recording, buzzing with disbelief. Jade walked toward the exit, gloves slung over her shoulder, every step measured, every movement calm. The glitter still clung to the floor, a faint reminder of the night that had changed everything. But as she reached the double doors, she paused. Something in the corner caught her eye, a folded envelope, black and sealed, sitting neatly on the last row of bleachers. No one had left it there. No one she knew. She picked it up, feeling the weight of its contents. The envelope was embossed with a golden emblem she hadn't seen since her first championship fight, the National Boxing Elite Federation. Her heart raced. Inside, a single card read, "Jade, we've been watching. There's more waiting for you than you've ever imagined. Meet us tomorrow. Midnight. Abandoned warehouse, East End. Come alone." A chill ran down her spine. Jade looked back at the now empty gym. The world thought she had returned to the shadows, that her victory tonight was the end. But someone, or something, knew she was just getting started. And in that moment, she realized. The fight she had trained for her whole life had only just begun.